Hello again and welcome back. My name is Sophie, as many of you know. Okay, so there are a lot of characters, so I'm just going to read some basic information and then we'll go in a little deeper and we'll look at all the characters a little bit closer and I'll have a little video series. So let's start with Sophie. I'm just going to read the first page because it has basically everything you need to know about them. So Sophie's known abilities: she's a telepath, a polyglot, an inflictor, a teleporter, and an enhancer. She lives in Havenfield. No one knows her immediate family, but we do know that Orly is her mother. She was adopted by Grady and Adeline Ruin. She's unmatchable. She's a current Foxfire protege. She no longer needs a Nexus. She doesn't have a Pathfinder. She doesn't have Spiral approval. She is a member of nobility. She's the lady. She's the leader of Team Valiant. Fitz is a telepath. He lives in Everglyn. His father is Alvin, his mother is Della, his older brother is Alvar, and his younger sister is Bianna. He has registered for the matchmakers, but he doesn't have any lists yet. He's a current Foxfire protege. He no longer needs a Nexus. He doesn't have a Pathfinder. He doesn't have Spyball approval, and he's not a member of nobility. Then we have Bianna. She's a Vanisher. She lives in Everglyn. Her father is Alvin. Her mother is Della. Her older brother is Alvar. And then her other older brother is Fitz. She's unregistered for matchmakers. She's a current Foxfire protege. She no longer needs a Nexus. She doesn't have a Pathfinder. She doesn't have Spyball approval. She is a member of nobility. She's a lady. She's a member of Team Valiant. Then we have Dex. He's a technopath. He lives in Rhymeshire. His father is Kessler, his mother is Julene, his brother is Rex, his other brother is Lex, and his sister is Bex. He's unregistered for the matchmakers. He's a Foxfire protege. He doesn't have a Pathfinder, and he doesn't need a Nexus anymore. He doesn't have Spyball approval. He is a member of nobility. His title is a Lord. He's a member of Team Valiant, and helps a lot with the projects for the council. So Keith, I loved his file because he basically changed everything. So he's an empath, but in this book we actually find out that he's also has a polyglot. So he lives on Shores of Solace with his father, but he used to live in Candleshade with his mother and father. So his father is Lord Cassius Sensen, and his mother is Lady Gisela Sensen. He's unregistered for a match. He's a current Foxfire protege. He no longer needs a Nexus. He doesn't have a Pathfinder. He doesn't have Spyball approval. He's not a member of nobility. And he has no title, but he says, hello, what about Lord Hunky Hair? That's a thing, and I loved that. And then we have his disciplinary record, but it's long. It's very, very long, so we don't need to read that. Next, we have Tam. So he's a shade. No one really knows where he lives. His family lives in Coralmere, but they are possibly live in Soul Reef. His family is Quan Song, his father, Mai Song, his mother, and Lin Song, his twin sister. His match status is unregistered. He's a current Foxfire protege. He no longer needs a Nexus. He doesn't have a Pathfinder. He doesn't have Spyball approval, and he's not a member of nobility. And we keep going because there are like 30 different registry files. Here we go, Lynn. She's a hydrokinetic. She possibly lives in Soul Reef, but her family lives in Coralmere. Quan Song, her father, Mai Song, her mother, and Tan Song, her twin brother. She's unregistered. She's a current Foxfire protege. She no longer needs a Nexus, and she doesn't have a Pathfinder. She's not a member of nobility, and she doesn't have Spyball approval. Then we have Wiley. He's a flasher. He lives in Soul Reef. His father is Prentice, and his mother is Kyra. Kyra's dead. Really sad. His adopted father is Sir Tiergan Allen Farr. He has one match list. He's a Foxfire graduate. He no longer needs a Nexus. He does have a Pathfinder, and he does have Spyball approval. He's a member of nobility. He's a Lord, and he's a member of Team Valiant. Christina. She's an empath. She lives in Sterling Gables with her father, Timken Hex, and her mother, Vika Hex. She's unregistered for the matchmakers. She's a current Foxfire protege. She no longer needs a nexus. She doesn't have a Pathfinder. She does have Spyball approval. She's a member of Team Valiant. She's Origin, and her title is Lady. Morella. Morella is a Cryokinetic. She lives in Fluttermont. Her father is Durand Reddick, and her mother is Caprice Reddick. She's registered for the matchmakers, but she doesn't have any lists yet. She's a current Foxfire protege. She no longer needs a nexus. She doesn't have a Pathfinder. She doesn't have Spyball approval, and she's not a member of nobility. Grady. Grady is a Mesmer. He lives in Havenfield with his wife, Adeline, Jolie, his daughter, who's deceased, and Sophie, his adopted daughter. So he's match approved, and he married Adeline. He's a Foxfire graduate. He no longer needs a nexus. He's been assigned a Pathfinder. He has Spyball approval and is a member of nobility. He's a lord, and he's an emissary. Then there's Adeline. She's a conjurer. She lives in Havenfield with Grady, her husband, Jolie, her daughter is deceased, and Sophie, her adopted daughter. She's a Foxfire graduate. She's married to Grady. She no longer needs a nexus. She's been assigned a Pathfinder. She doesn't have Spyball approval. She is a member of nobility. She's a lady, but she doesn't have an assignment. Then we have Alden. He's a telepath. He lives in Everglyn. His wife is Della. His son is Alvar. And his other son is Fitz. And then last we have Bianna, who's his daughter. He married Della. He's a Foxfire graduate. He no longer needs a nexus. He's been assigned a Pathfinder. He doesn't have Spyball approval. And he is a member of nobility. He's an emissary. Then we have Della. Della's a Vanisher. She lives in Everglyn with her husband Alden. Alvar is no longer with them. Her son Fitz and her daughter Bianna. She is married. She's a Foxfire graduate. She no longer needs a nexus. She has a Pathfinder. And she does have Spyball approval. She's a member of nobility. She's a lady. She's also an emissary. The inaccessible flowers are Kessler Disney, Julian Disney, Lady Gisela, Alvar, Lady Vespera, Gethin Inar, Roy, Ignis, Sir Errol Loki Forkel, Mr. Forkel, Sir Tiergan, Counselor Kenrick, Jolie, Ruin, and Brant. That's basically the basic information about all the characters. Next video, I'll dive in a little bit deeper and we'll look at Sophie. Thank you so much for watching. I would really love if you could give this video a thumbs up, and I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe.